actually going to start the recording so that everyone on the VODs can watch us and listen to us. Welcome, VOD guys. But yeah, we've been seeing a lot of weird priority, or at least different priority from the majority of the rest of the world.
Yeah, and that's very typical for South American Dota. They tend to have different hero preferences, and a lot of it is also completely different from what's popular elsewhere. And originally, they were the first teams that were very into the Huskar phase, but I haven't seen a Huskar in South American Dota for a long time, so I'm not sure why that hero has fallen out of favor when it's risen in popularity in the other scenes. So we'll see Broodmother first banned here. This is looking a lot more like an Eastern, or more like a Western draft, or Eastern from South America, but European. We'll just clump them all together in that central area. And well, still a lot of very powerful heroes left in the pool. Winter Wyvern going to be first picked up by Isurus, something that they like going for a lot more than the other teams in this tournament.
Yeah, and in just some of the past games that we've casted, seen very few Winter Wyverns. I mean, it really is just a team flavor thing. But hey, if it works in Europe, it certainly can work in other regions as well. We've been seeing a lot of first pick. I think both games had a first pick Dazzle, one with the Broodmother partner. Obviously Broodmother is not in the pool right now, but still Dazzle is available for Artyk, and given the versatility of that hero, given just the sheer popularity of the hero, I wouldn't be surprised to see Artyk go for something more along those lines. But it seems like they're gonna take their sweet time. We have all day. Doom is also in the pool. I'm personally terrified of playing against Doom, and also terrified of playing with a Doom on my own team, because I know that they're just god-awful every single time. But he's been rising a lot in popularity in the other regions. Is a pretty good counter already just to the Winter Wyvern, just that point-click, you're not going to do anything. So I would like to see that picked up sometime during this tournament. I don't know if I'm going to get my wish, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the heroes that are very popular right now, Anti-Mage and Ember Spirit especially, get very shut down. If they're doomed, they're pretty useless. And a lot of those mobile heroes are very much in the meta. And we're going to see one now as Artyk pick up the Anti-Mage and Queen of Pain both. Maybe a Doom for Isurus here would not be amiss.
Yeah, we very often see Dooms picked up with Winter Wyvern, just like as a combo. They don't really do great together. Like, it's pretty good. You get to lock down two heroes, especially if those heroes are blinkers like Queen of Pain or Anti-Mage. But the sheer amount of healing you get from those two heroes, like using the Embrace on Doom, is absolutely freaking stupid. Like, you get so much regen. It seems like it's not going to be the pick, however. It's instead going to be a Templar Assassin for Isurus. Definitely a little bit more in their comfort zone. Has an okay matchup versus this Queen of Pain. However, as far as lockdown is concerned, Templar Assassin does not have any, so they really do need to heavily prioritize CC effects for their next pick phase.
Yeah, for their offlane and for their support and reliable CC effects at that. It can't be like the Winter Wyvern where it's very ultimate dependent, because they're only going to have one Winter's Curse to throw out inside a fight. Maybe that'll get you a kill on either the Anti-Mage or Queen of Pain, but you really need to be able to handle both. And when you do commit a spell like that, the next engagement, Artyk will feel comfortable enough to go into it knowing that, hey, that Winter's Curse isn't up for another 30 seconds or so. Maybe we can take an objective with this Anti-Mage during that time. So they'll want something to bridge that gap and that weakness that they are going to have with the Winter Wyvern hero. The Templar Assassin, although she's not going to have a lot of disable to her name, is going to have a stupid amount of burst damage. So it is a good hero to capitalize off of those other heroes that should be coming later down the line for Isurus' draft. And in general, I think it's still a reasonable pick. And if Doom is not banned out by Artyk, I still want to see it. Not only is it a really good amount of sustain for the team, but it's also a really good amount of single target disable, although a little bit more on that ultimate reliant side that I was dissuading against. They could pick up another support to fix that. Maybe a Rubik with double blinkers on the board.
10 seconds.
Yeah, anyone with the point click stun is going to be just fine. Slaughter is actually going to get banned out. We have seen Isurus run a kind of minus armor pseudo cheese strategy with minus armor and Dazzle. Most of those components are not available anymore, so it's not going to be happening. But Doom is going to actually be banned out by Isurus. I mean, Doom does fairly well against Templar Assassin, very well in fact, but Isurus, by grabbing up this Templar Assassin this early, it does indicate that they're going to look to get in under the Anti-Mage. They don't want him to farm. Templar Assassin, as far as mid laners go, gets active super early and scales well into the late game. Maybe not necessarily to contest the Anti-Mage in a 1v1 scenario, but does give him in general a run for his money, since you would expect your Templar Assassin to be ahead. Other aggressive heroes, I think, should be coming here for Isurus, and we can see Artyk. They're taking quite quite a lot of time deciding on what to ban out. It's Gyrocopter and Slaughter, 2 heroes that, once they get their levels, and Slaughter, once he grabs his level 6 and a Blink Dagger, suddenly, just like that, he's turned on and he's going to be all over the place. And that's really not something that Artyk want to be dealing with.
Yeah, maybe some other safe laners that could group up with Isurus would fit very nicely into their overall strategy and just ball up before the anti-mage really gets online. Something like a Luna could help them push down those towers, but the Rubik is actually going to come out from Artyk and then an instant IO pick coming from Isurus. IO Winter Wyvern, the hesitation here for me is that they don't have a lot of lockdown, but the combination of Cold Embrace on the IO as it's tethered to another hero is pretty darn sick, and in general, a lot of the IO partners do offer lockdown from a core position, whether that's a CK, Sven, or Tiny. One of those could be very good for Isurus Gaming, and I know that they do like falling back on the IO Tiny combination quite often, so I think that's going to be the play here.
The IO was banned in those previous games. It's not too late, however, for Artyk to grab a very resistant hero to that. Rubik is okay, just having that point-click stun. It's a Spirit Breaker, actually, for the Artyk side. I think I like him a little bit better in the off lane rather than as a support, since Disruptor is looking real good here for Artyk, but it is going to be the IO Tiny combo. I think this is probably the most reasonable. Avalanche comes out a lot faster than a Chaos Bolt, and as much as I love CK, minus armor with Templar Assassin, it's good stuff. The Tiny is just the clearer pick here, in no part because Craggy Exterior is just amazing versus Anti-Mage. If Anti-Mage doesn't have a BKB, come 30-40 minutes in the game, he's just not going to be able to kill off the Tiny. He could be able to kill off the IO very easily, but not the Tiny. Having to deal with that Craggy is super annoying.
Very well. As far as the last picks for both teams are concerned, Isra is probably lacking an offlaner for their team. And the offlaners that would have offered a good amount of disable are going to be a little bit limited. In fact, I would have really liked to see a Sand King for Isurus, as that's going to be the ban for themselves. Sand King combos really nicely with the IO, and in that sense, I'm a little bit, I don't know, sad that we don't get to see that synergy today. But something that'll fill the same role, just a blink stun.
Yeah, and also the Sand King works very well with the Templar Assassin. Once they both grab their Blink Daggers, once they're both itemized enough to go for those burst kills, just those heroes jumping in, and pretty much anyone in Artyk is going to die. Even the Blinkers, Queen of Pain and Anti-Mage, going up against that much physical damage, maybe even an Epicenter if needed, and also a Relocate if needed, would offer Isurus a lot of pick-off potential around the map, because if you look at it right now, you would expect the Iron Tiny mostly to be on their own. 30 minutes into the game, mostly on their own, mostly doing their own thing. That leaves Templar Assassin, Winter Wyvern +1 to be doing most of the heavy lifting across the map. And for Artyk, it's going to be a Venomancer pickup. Very interesting. 9 times out of 10, I feel, at least nowadays, Venomancer is going towards that mid-roll. It looks like we may be in for a support Venomancer.
Or offlane, or mid. There are so many different ways that Artyk could shuffle around this Veno into their lanes. And I think the matchup that they want is the Venomancer versus Templar Assassin matchup, although TA has a lot of damage and will be able to deal with the wards poking and prodding. The tick damage is going to burn through his defensive charges, and we'll have to make her think twice if maybe a Spirit Breaker charging in, or somebody else looking for the gank. There is always that potential for the support Veno, but as a pick in general this game, I think it's pretty good. Tiny is going to be constantly slowed down, constantly kited. Templar Assassin will run into similar issues. Relies on that blink for mobility, and although when she has the defensive refraction charges up, can still get the blink even through the poison tick damage coming out from the Veno. I think it's going to be very annoying for Isurus Gaming to deal with. Although very squishy and very burstable, as long as Venomancer gets his ultimate off inside the fights, we'll still be able to contribute, even though 9 times out of 10 you're going to see this Veno getting Avatossed or just meld struck to oblivion.
We did see in the last game with Santos, they grabbed a very much so 4 Protect 1 draft. It was a Spectre instead of an Anti-Mage, but they really lacked the 4 heroes necessary to fight early on, and they crumbled because of it. This 4 Protect 1 style for Artyk, with the Venomancer, Queen of Pain, Rubik, Spirit Breaker being the 4, are ready to go. Like, these heroes just love to fight early and often as much as they can, and they're pretty well matched up against the Templar Assassin and Winter Wyvern. Perhaps, they're actually very well matched up. I was going to say perhaps they have a lack of magical damage to deal with the Embrace, but no, they pretty much have that in spades. For Isurus, they do have to be pretty careful. It is, of course, possible to see Templar Assassin run away with this game if she gets a decent early start. IO Tiny to get a whole bunch of early game kills given the fragility of the Artyk side, but I would say in general, Artyk's draft, at least compared to the ones that we last saw from Santos, definitely a lot better position to protect this Anti-Mage and get him some later stage farm. We got the Night Stalker for Isurus, so, not exactly that Sand King. It was banned out, but as far as aggressive heroes, as far as heroes that can apply pressure, Night Stalker does it well. Night Stalker might even be the best at it.
For the first two night times, you're probably not going to see a Mantis Out for the M or a Eul Scepter for the Queen of Pain. That silence does so much work. I've been disconnected from this server, but I do quite like the Night Stalker pick, and hopefully at least the players are in.
Yeah, who knows? I'm sure it's going to be fine, but yeah, Night Stalker as the pick. It's a little bit of a slower combo. I was describing earlier the Sand King, Templar Assassin, double blink, boom, dead. Obviously, those two heroes definitely can do it, and as far as diving towers, with the Embrace, with the IO heal / backup, with the relocate, yeah, diving towers is going to be a significant threat here. Isurus and Artyk both are kind of equally matched as far as how aggressive they can be and probably how aggressive they want to be. Late game IO Tiny we all know is a significant threat, but the late game of Artyk is nothing to shake a stick at either. Like, of course, we know Anti-Mage can get there, but a late game Venomancer, even if he's played as a support, is a lot of damage. You get the Aghanims on your Poison Nova. It does like more than 1,000 damage magic, of course, so it can be reduced by a couple of methods, but these late game heroes of Artyk are no slouches either.
In general, I'll say that Artyk have more of a brute force draft. They have heroes that are going to pretty much play themselves this game, and Isurus are going to be a lot more dependent on good positioning and excellent play this game. Not to say they can't do it, but I'm slightly favoring Artyk's draft, if only just. As you said, there is potential for Tiny and Templar Assassin to run away with this game, but quickly let's introduce our teams. On the dire side, Artyk are going to put Cloteo on the Anti-Mage. ACC on the Rubik will be supporting that AM. Soothes on the Queen of Pain. Venomancer handled by Ned. And offlane Spirit Breaker by Dudu.
And for the Isurus side, Pepita is going to be playing the Templar Assassin. Algodonchin is on the Tiny with Rufy as his IO buddy. You got Crick on the Winter Wyvern up towards top lane. It's going to be that offlane Night Stalker by 11.99. Again, no ticket means no official names. We could always assume that these are the people, or KNK rather. We could assume that these are just the people who are supposed to be here, and that's just going to be that. But for right now, this Tiny is kind of hanging around this bottom lane a little bit more than I would expect. Is there actually any potential here for a defensive Tiny tri-lane? No real indication either way, but it seems like Pepita is actually geared up for mid. So yeah, we've seen time and time again Tiny IO dual lanes mid. Always got to remember he does do pretty well in that safe lane also. The IO especially gets a little bit more time in the jungle, gets those stacks going, gets to a faster level 6.
Bottom boundary rune going to be secured by the Templar Assassin. Top boundary rune by the Queen of Pain. We already touched on in the draft that this matchup should be pretty even, especially considering the sentry situation for both sides. Templar Assassin has a sentry, Queen of Pain does not, although it should be handed over by Ned here. So one sentry apiece. Whoever gets that onto the ground will have a slight edge in the lane, but even with sentry vision over the Templar Assassin, we're seeing more and more TAs avoid meld altogether and go for the second point in her side blades to get a little bit more lane sustain. A dual lane versus dual lane IOTA versus Venomancer Queen of Pain should be a pretty interesting one.
It's not really going to hurt their side lane either. They're already going to start onto Dudu down towards bottom lane. Arctic Burn is guaranteed to do a lot of damage this close to the Spirit Breaker. And of course, they'll land an Avalanche there as well. Of course, the downside is that your Tiny will probably run out of mana. Doesn't have that tether bottle to really keep him sustained, but they're going to be able to poke him apart the Spirit Breaker quite a bit. And likewise, up towards top lane, Night Stalker, really not a hero that wants to be blinked upon by the Anti-Mage. Once Clot grabs level 2, just grab Mana Break, grab Blink, jump into the Night Stalker, hit him 2 or 3 times, and though he does have a Mango, Night Stalker is not exactly a bright hero. He will be really struggling in this lane with no mana.
But Pepita's sentry has been placed down on the ground. Ned has yet to commit his. So it looks like Dire Team, if they're fast on their fingers, should be able to tango out this sentry and make sure that the Templar Assassin isn't able to dodge any of those projectiles. But it looks also like Pepita is going to go for the no points meld build. It really could be anybody's game, but for now the Queen of Pain has a pretty sizable advantage. It really depends on whether or not Templar Assassin can get these CS under her tower. If she can keep at least close to the Queen of Pain, but it looks like with just the power of double ranged denies here, this should go in their favor. Gale opening up into Pepita. A lot of damage could in theory go his way, but Zeus was too low to commence the tower dive. Although with a full HP pool and full mana pool, I bet you they would have gone for the first blood attempt.
Well, let's Shadow Strike and Gale, both of which, I mean, Gale doesn't do actually any damage at level 1, but it's slow damage, and it's damage that really isn't effective at racing with the bottle from Rufy. So diving the tower, not going to be happening until much later, but up towards top lane, we've already seen Night Stalker being harassed out of the lane. In fact, very close to death, and is he going to die right now? They're going to dive the tower. One more shot from the Anti-Mage, not quite going to do it. The Night Stalker will salve up, so he will survive in this top lane. But with no mana, really doesn't have much that he can do up here. He definitely does not want to eat the Tango right now. He just wants that as a regeneration tool. They're actually going to catch Dudu down towards bottom lane. He's going to charge towards KNK, but the Winter Wyvern, the IO's right-click damage, not quite going to be enough. These two heroes not exactly known for their right-clicks. Will drive the Spear Breaker out. But both these offlaners are having about equally as tough time as... they're going to go again onto this Night Stalker, who is going to chow down on his Mango just to get a Void out. That is not really worth it, I feel. He's going to try to turn around into this Rubik, but... yeah, these offlaners are having an extremely rough time, and the Templar Assassin is as well. So for Artyk, they're pretty well positioned in this game. They have Anti-Mage and Queen of Pain both farming it up.
Yeah, potentially a little bit of panic there from the Night Stalker. He's going to be just fine. Both of these offlaners, although it's going to be close, will both retreat. A small correction, Venomancer Gale does do damage now. That was a couple patches ago, but it's hardly anything to write home about. And, yeah. We'll go back into this
damage and 10 damage per tick. Gotta watch out. It's
enough
slows,
for refraction
it
charges.
slows a hell of a lot, and he has an Invis rune. Pepita is gonna dodge a Shadow Strike. That is level 2 from Soothes, but if they catch a Gale into Rufy, that might just be a kill, and they will. Blink forward from Soothes. One right click, and that's gonna be the kill. On the IO, TP coming in, it's the Night Stalker. It's not nighttime, he has boots, yeah, but they can't kill off this Queen of Pain. It's just not gonna happen. In fact, they have to be very careful. Shadow Strike does a lot of damage. They get a lot of spill damage onto Soothes, but Soothes now gonna bottle up, has another Blink Dagger, and this Night Stalker dropping rapidly will be denied out by Pepita. So it's not as bad as it could have been for Isurus, but still, Night Stalker has no business going 2v1 in this mid lane.
And now the Templar Assassin getting a couple of free side blade hits over onto the Queen of Pain is going to mean that she's able to find a little bit of farm, which is going to help her catch up, and it's desperately needed. If we take a look at the CS before this point, 20 and 10 compared to 9 and 2. Pepita's having a really difficult time. That's not to say they this game, but as of yet, they have no ancient stacks in the camp prepared for this Templar Assassin. This game is going to be very difficult and potentially reliant on this Tiny getting active early to make the space for mid laner, not something you see very often.
And usually Tiny's in the safe lane just want to go for the farming builds, get like Power Treads, Drums, Aghanim Scepter, like that type of route. If the mid lane is struggling this much and the off lane same thing, he may just have to go for a Blink Dagger and try to get a couple of kills and try to just accelerate Pepita as well as 1199 just through those kills alone. It's a pretty tough call to make, and he may or may not actually go for that, but as it stands right now, even if it may be nighttime, I don't really know if this Night Stalker can do that much. He's level 3 right now, which is not terrible, but they're applying absolutely no pressure to this Anti-Mage up towards the top lane, and Soothes is just bullying this Templar Assassin non-stop. Has a level advantage. He's going to get jumped though. Void and Crippling Fear is there. Soothes in a lot of trouble. Will get brought down. Looks like just underestimated the power of a Night Stalker, who level 3 usually is going to have 2 points Void, 1 point Hunter, but having that long silence is what you need to get kills in the Queen of Pain and Anti-Mage.
Even with just a day silence, that probably would have been enough. The biggest thing that tilts that kill in the favor of Isurus is the fact that they don't have high ground vision that deep into the mid lane. The line extends to about there. Night Stalker was coming from an angle that wasn't expected by the Queen of Pain. I'm pretty sure she thought he left, but that is going to help so much for Isurus to get back to parity in this mid lane. 24 and 13 to 18 and 7 is a lot closer than it once was, since Pepita has an assist on the Queen of Pain, and now the difference between these two heroes in net worth and experience is negligible.
Yeah, it's going to be a neck-and-neck game, in which case I don't think it's super clear who has an edge here. It's usually the second nighttime phase where Night Stalkers really start hitting their strides. I think the most curious thing to me is the fact that Dudu has not charged anyone, I don't think, like, not out of this bottom lane at any rate. Usually Spirit Breaker, especially in the off lane, is going to be more than okay just to charge all over the place and get these aggressive plays on the board, and he may have his opportunity as they are going to run into Ned. He's going to get voided. He's going to throw out a Gale, but he's going to take a lot of damage. Lift up onto 1199, going to bring Ned a little bit of space, but definitely not enough because this is a Night Stalker during the nighttime. He's going to kill out the Venomancer. Pepita's going to close in 2 shots to kill out the Rubik. No, it's going to be Isurus' Night Stalker to grab both of them, and it seems like the Spirit Breaker actually did charge into that, but just not quite fast enough.
Yeah, without that charge connecting, their supports were just way too isolated. The Night Stalker is terrifying at this point, and is now level 4. This is a very happy first nighttime for an offlane Night Stalker that started out by giving up first blood. He's now 2-1-1, has helped out his team quite a lot across the map, although this does come at the cost of some farm for the Anti-Mage. The Tiny is also neck and neck with his opponent, since he is getting some acceleration in the jungle that Anti-Mage really can't do until much later once that Battle Fury is completed.
Quick look now at the IO status. This is another very important level that Isurus need. Level 6 to get that relocate opens up the door for that second nighttime phase with the Templar Assassin in combination to just go for kills on literally anybody. IO's not really doing that hot right now. For the most part, dual laning it up with the Templar Assassin. I don't really know how many stacks he created, but it didn't really seem like a lot, though there are some now for the Templar Assassin, or Tiny if needed. The IO really does need to start pulling and needs to start getting those levels up. An IO that's under-leveled is a kind of useless hero, is more or less just a walking tether bottle, which is not bad, just not quite good enough. The Night Stalker is actually going to make his rotation down towards the bottom lane. They're looking for an Avatos onto Dudu right now. Daylight is only going to be here for another 30 seconds, or nighttime is only going to be here for another 30 seconds, so I don't think they could actually get anything going here. Although Artyk, they're smoked up, and they're looking for that timing where Daylight breaks, and Night Stalker is suddenly a lot weaker.
Yep, Ned and Rubik down in this bottom lane. Do they quite have the damage scale up this Tiny? I'm not so sure. Especially if he has an IO behind him now. They probably are going to spot eyes onto them very shortly. They drop a ward, which will slow down the Night Stalker, but also gives up the positioning. They get the slow from the Psionic Trap, and now chasing forward. More wards aren't going to save you here, but it's Telekinesis might. They'll throw him back in, stunning both the TA and the Tiny, and everybody will be forced back.
Alright, so a little bit of aggression, but now that it's daytime, Isurus' game plan is just going to be, well, what the game plan usually is for Night Stalker during the day. They just sit back and they chill. Ideally for Isurus, they would like to have a Blink Dagger on this Templar Assassin by the time the next nighttime phase rolls around. Not sure how possible that is. But for Artyk, they don't really have any levels where it's just suddenly game time, nor do they really have items. Like, the Anti-Mage is obviously going to go for Battle Fury because he's having this much free space. But, Soothes is working for either Power Treads or an Orchid. Either way, well, the Orchid's not going to be up for a very long time. Power Treads won't really have a significant impact in this game. Artyk are pretty much ready to fight whenever. They just need the levels necessary to be comfortable pulling that trigger. And they need a target. The bottom lane is going to be charged, but again, you cannot charge and kill off a Tiny, who's actually very close to a Blink Dagger if he wants it.
This game, Drums might be attractive for Algodonchin. He has the IO partnered up with him, and Drums on Tiny is your general transition item into the Aghanim Scepter, but the benefit of having the Blink Dagger will allow him to get kills potentially on the Anti-Mage and Queen of Pain. Although they're not going to be one-cycle kills with Power Treads on the Queen, she isn't quite in that one-shot kill threshold, even once Tiny ticks his level 9. They'll put them darn close, and at that point you just need a little bit of help from Pepita. It's up to personal preference. I think both of their item builds hold a certain amount of value for the Tiny of this game, but it looks like he's going to go for Blink since he hasn't purchased anything already, so we're going to see that in less than 100 gold.
Oh, this is a narrow timing for Artyk. I don't know if Rubik Queen of Pain can actually kill off an IO Tiny combo. Well, it's too late anyway, so never mind, but they're still smoked up looking for something. Probably won't find anyone, although Rufy, well, he has someone to tether to in the mid lane, so he's not in a ton of trouble. Smoke unsuccessful there from the Artyk side, but Queen of Pain is holding on to a lot of burst right now. She's packing a cannon, so it's up to the Azure side to kind of dodge this hero. Avalanche Toss is a significant threat now, and where is Algodonchin going to go? Probably towards mid that has had the highest concentration of heroes. Though killing off Ned isn't really super attractive, it's a hero, it's a target, right? Or they can try to go for the hard target in the Anti-Mage. It's much higher value, and this is where you want to have the Tiny's Blink Dagger be a surprise. There's going to be the darkness. However, they can't quite get the silence on him. They do still see him Avalanche, toss up, not back. They're going to just lift him straight up. He has no more blink. He's going to try to turn and fight with the silence on him. He's going to drop. Anti-Mage to fall, and that's a big kill for the Isurus side. It's the first usage of Blink Dagger, and though the combo wasn't necessarily there, slowing down this Anti-Mage as much as you can is what Isurus need to be doing.
That was a well-executed gank coming up from Isurus, making the best out of a pretty poor situation. They were spotted out by the Warden lane. Since the Anti-Mage moves so quickly once the Tiny TP'd in, they know he has a Warden lane, so not only do they get that Anti-Mage kill, but they also get the D-Ward. Now Tiny is an absolute menace, just enough to get in range for that silence.
They're going to steal the stack. Night Stalker used that additional time of the darkness, which is picked up rather early, just being at level 6, but he spotted this enormous stack. And Tiny IO can do this very quickly. Avalanche Toss most of it's dead. With the spirits to kind of clean up, this is going to be, what was that, like a tri-stack, a quad stack of creeps out of the hands of this poor anti-mage. Is going to get a couple of consolation skeleton warriors, but that's not what he wants to see right now. That is a hell of a play there from Isurus. A lot of cash into the pockets of Tiny, and most importantly, out of the pockets of Artyk.
Now that Tiny is going to accelerate himself towards what looks to be an Aghanim Scepter. He almost has the point booster gold. Algadonchian is going to start running away with this game, but now we also have to take a look at the other heroes for the side of Isurus. Templar Assassin's Ancient Stack was blocked out for quite a large time in this game, so it wasn't nearly as impressive as it once was. But compare Templar Assassin to the Queen of Pain, based on how the lane started out, and based on Templar Assassin having a pretty darn poor time, Pepita has come back and now has a slight advantage over the Queen, and maybe it's a bit more than slight, almost 1,000 gold over her lane opponent.
I feel like Artyk are just sitting back a little bit too much right now. Again, we haven't really seen any aggressive plays coming out from the Spear Breaker. He's gone for maxed out charge. I mean, that is the build that you want to go for if you're looking to just charge in, kill any given hero, then leave. Queen of Pain has yet to throw out a Sonic Wave. That's a lot of assets that they're just not using right now that they can be using to be getting a couple of kills, slow down Pepita. It's going to be, well, nighttime phase again. Take 2. Night Stalker now level 7. Pretty much exactly where he wants to be. And they're going to smoke up, go towards the bottom lane. Unfortunately for Isurus, there's nothing here. And for Artyk, it seems like they're just trying to make this game into an anti-mage game. Yeah, he's getting a lot of farm, but again, anti-mage versus Tiny against Craggy Exterior is rough. The burst damage from Templar Assassin, it's all physical, so his natural kit isn't really going to help him much there. I don't really know if this is what Artyk should be doing. They should be looking to apply some pressure right now with their Spirit Breaker.
Tiny, or rather, Anti-Mage needs to get ahead of the Tiny and the Templar Assassin in order to have a fighting chance this game. On even footing, one of those is going to be a handful, and both of them that are ahead of the Anti-Mage now is a disaster. Tiny finds the AM around the corner, gets the toss onto the creep, but won't be able to connect with the Avalanche. Right there, that's just a situation of Fog not being in favor of the Tiny, but it'll mop up a couple of creeps in the meantime, and at the very least, is applying pressure onto Anti-Mage and forcing him deeper into his woods. He doesn't feel safe in his safe lane, as Algadonchian could very easily snap him up from Fog because they denied away those lane wards that were dropped down by the Rubik. Speaking of which, ACC don't even move a muscle. He's right over in the sidelines, soaking some experience up in this top lane, which will help him get his level 6, which, although very nice this game, it could end up being very difficult for him to actually get out of here alive until the tower is dead.
You can see the aggressive move from the Night Stalker as well. They're going to try to jump down towards bottom where Pepita is going to pick a fight with the Queen of Pain, forces her out, but is going to get charged. Dust is there, so no meld is going to save her right now, but they jump in with the backlines to relocate. Clado is here. He's trying to go for Rupee, but even with the Mana Void, not going to do enough. They curse up Duty, just holding him out of place, so they go for the Anti-Mage. With Pepita's significant damage, they'll bring him down as well. And they're still on to Dudu, although he does get the charge out, he should be okay. Algadonchian's still looking for someone else to jump towards. With the wards up, they're probably not going to get him, but they see Dudu. They can't quite close the distance there. That's a 2-for-1 trade. They lose the IO, but after the first relocate, the Tiny gets the kills, and the Templar Assassin survives. Artyk try to make a reinforcement play, but again, they want to be the ones setting the pace of this game, not responding to Isurus.
Not only over to trade, but it's Anti-Mage Queen of Pain. 2 highest priority targets on Artyk, and I hate to break to people.
Mr. Roboto is back in the house. Yeah, okay, while I'm messing with that, apparently the Winter Wyvern dies. My bad, guys. But again, there are background things that need to be done at the same time. Okay, we're back, and we're just in time to find this Rubik in a hell of a lot of trouble. The toss is going to be there, and Rubik really doesn't have any recourse here. Algadonchian's going to grab that kill as well. A nice clean avalanche toss combo. Hopefully the call should be more or less correct right now, but it's not really going to change that much. The state of the game is the same, where Isurus are in control, and they are, burning nighttime phase right now. This second nighttime phase is not nearly as good as the first, but they actually see this Anti-Mage. They have no Blink Iron Templar Assassin. They get the silence, however, and now here comes the Tiny IO. Avatos, that's a dead Anti-Mage. They're going to blink forward, looking for another. However, they get lifted up in response. Nighttime is going to round in just 30 seconds, but this is 30 seconds where they can dive with freedom. They're going to go right into the Rubik, bring him down, and another strike's on the Night Stalker. Yeah, he's going to get tossed up. He may actually die because of that. No, he's going to lose the tower aggro, turn around for a void, and get the kill onto Dudu. Algadonchian's going to grab a double kill. Someone's TPing in. Avalanche is going to be a little bit delayed as it does miss, but they have the curse. It actually goes into a creep, so he's going to take a lot less damage because of it, but with the toss there and the burst damage, they're going to grab a triple kill on this Tiny, and the Night Stalker lives. That's a 4-for-0 exchange in favor of Isurus. And just like that, daytime breaks. The worst may be over for Artyk, but the worst was pretty damn bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Now Artyk are really just not in a situation where coming back to this game is easy. A Tiny and Io with map control is so very terrifying. Come at you from any angle, almost as his Ag's done. They're going to go for this poor anti-mage. They're going to blink Avalanche, toss the Melt Strike, and they're going to kill him off. Desolator not even delivered for that kill. The anti-mage has nowhere safe to farm.
I thought they would need a Blink Dagger on this Templar Assassin, but they're getting the lockdown on the Anti-Mage fast enough. Usually you're able to blink away from Crippling Fear, but just not the case. They're now going to start trying to make some aggressive play towards 1199, but it ends up just being a charge just to say hello, just to say that there's a Spirit Breaker in this game because Isurus may have forgotten. But Anti-Mage, he is closing in on his Battle Fury. Does he actually have it? No, he's one sword away, and dying now 4 times is really setting him back. He needs the Battle Fury because the rest of the team, they're not really doing that much. They're not getting that much farm. Queen of Pain has 6,000 net worth, going to go for an Aghanim Scepter, but again, what use is an Aghanim Scepter if you never cast your ultimate? Has there been a single Sonic Wave? I don't believe there has been.
Not one of consequence, at least. Same with the Spirit Breaker. It feels like although there was a lot of aggressive potential coming up from Artyk's draft, they're just not tapping into it. This is a 0-1 and 0 Spirit Breaker. Due to, I hate to say it, has done nothing.
Yeah, it's a decent environment for the Spirit Breaker. Like, yeah, you may have a tough time in lane up against the Winter Wyvern and the Tiny, but the value of the Spirit Breaker, like the great strength of the hero, is that even if you do get shut down, you can be effective. Like, he has Nether Strike as well, so he has 2 stunning tools, and Avalanche, Void, they may interrupt his charge or whatever, but the Spirit Breaker needs to be doing something for his team. He's going to grab an urn, so that's going to reward him for doing something, but is he actually going to do that something? We don't know yet. In the meantime, bottom lane Pepita, he's going to go straight to town on this tower. Desolator is going to tear it down really quickly. Ned looking for the deny, not going to find it, gets the Gale, however, on Pepita, and now here comes a charge. No. Okay, I guess they remembered there's a relocate, but still, they just sacrificed the tier 1 tower for pretty much absolutely nothing. They're getting very little across the map.
Now, Artyk need to find some sort of smoke gank. They need to involve the Queen of Pain and the Spirit Breaker, and they need to find kills. At this point, it doesn't matter who they kill. Even if they have to throw Nether Strike and Sonic Wave, as long as they can get a kill on even one of the supports and get out afterwards, it's worth it when you're 12-3 and in general just this far behind. We're at a 7,500 net worth and experience advantage for Isurus, and they are going to do just that, bumping right into the Night Stalker.
I don't think they know he's there. No, they actually do see him. He's going to hit with the Shadow Strike, and this should be a dead Night Stalker, however. No Sonic Wave because she's hit with Crippling Fear. Nether Strike is going to kill off the NS. Here comes the combo. Blink Toss going to crater the Rubik. Now they're going to try to kill Soothe with the Avalanche. They're going to slow her down. Curse is there as well, saving Rufy from the Sonic Wave. It's going to be 3 kills for 1. Isurus see their 4th target. And they have a toss. Blink Dagger be damned. Pepita don't need it. He's not going to have a fraction up. No melt either. Now he's going to grab the Blink Dagger, but Ned is probably just going to die here. Avalanche is now back up. That's going to land. 1 big melt strike. A toss for celebration. Pepita is just going to straight TP on out of there. Anti-Mage loses all of his buddies. May lose this top tier 2 tower as well. And for Night Stalker, yeah, he has Hand of Midas available. He died first. Kind of sucks to be him, but hell, Tiny's getting a hell of a lot. And Templar Assassin now has enough bursts and has the Blink Dagger to actually get in there and get those kills. This is looking really bad for Artyk. That's not the fight that they wanted.
What they do get for that terrible fight is the Anti-Mage's Battle Fury. So now the AM does have his tool to be able to push out these lanes and to accelerate his farm. It's going to be a long, hard journey for Anti-Mage to come back into relevancy, but if he is left alone, if Isurus don't kill him off in the next 20 minutes, he could eventually come to a point where he is a potent threat in some of these team fights. So that's what to look out for if you're rooting for Artyk, if you want to see them come back into this game. They need to try making those moves again, but it is so very difficult. When Relocate is able to respond and make any even 5 versus 1 scenario into a 5 versus 3 worst case. And when your Tiny is this stacked, 5 versus 3 is terrifying.
And it's not like Isurus have not been going for the Anti-Mage. They've had him in their sights the entire time, and they're itemizing to further pick off this Anti-Mage, especially this Blink Dagger and Templar Assassin. That's really her weakness in going for the AM. They're going to try to go for the Queen of Pain. Unfortunately for Isurus, it's just an illusion. They don't get the kill there, but still, if anyone is foolish enough to get close enough, Pepita not quite in like one-shot range just yet, because this Queen of Pain is rather tanky with the point booster and power treads. But still, whoever this Templar Assassin blinks onto is going to need a lot of help. Isurus, they're really in no rush also. Like, they can just sit back and let this Anti-Mage farm if they want to, because the Tiny has this Aghanim Scepter. That's his Battle Fury-esque item. And with the Templar Assassin also on board, Isurus are just going to farm faster if they want to get into that type of game.
I'm going to derail things for a little bit. Take a look where KNK is walking. They changed that ramp.
Yeah, it's like tilted.
Interesting. Okay, back to the game. We have a smoke coming from KNK and
I'm gonna have to
the Night
recall you,
Stalker.
Mr. Roboto. It'll work eventually, guys. It'll work one of these days. And he's back. Continue.
One of these days, Skype is going to work properly and nothing's going to break.
yeah, right. But Night Stalker, he's smoked up. They checked out Roshan. They saw nothing. But while nothing is happening, that's great for Isurus because Tiny's kind of pushing your bottom lane, Artyk. You should probably look for some sort of trade here. Maybe a defense, or you could just do nothing. It seems like Artyk just have no leadership right now.
They don't have anybody that's calling the shots. Nobody that's changing these initiations, and they're always on the receiving end of all of these fights. They need to find some way to put themselves in the driver's seat. No matter what that is, they're playing way too reactively.
And the state of the game, I mean, we already said is favoring Isurus, but it's reflected in the golden experience. While nothing is happening, while Artyk are doing nothing, Isurus are farming faster, a lot faster. And of course, those couple of team fights helping the Isurus gold and experience spike in their favor. They're just getting more out of this map naturally than the Artyk side. So while everyone is doing nothing, Artyk are suffering. And I hope they know it. I mean, they're 12 kills down, so they should know that they're behind at the very least. But they may not know the degree at which they're behind. It's quite a bit.
Yeah, and to just put that into numbers that we can understand, 10,000 is the net worth advantage, and about 10,000 is the experience advantage. A little bit over for the gold, a little bit under for the experience, but in that ballpark. Pepita's hunting, although right now he is pretty isolated. There's always the threat of having a Tiny that can relocate, and Tiny has a finished assault cuirass. It's only a matter of time before Isurus take this Roshan. It's going to fall in just a matter of seconds with the AC minus armor with the Tempo Assassin Meld and Deso. And then just go high ground. Artyk need to find some sort of fight outside of their base to make sure this Tiny just doesn't take it down in just a couple of swipes of the tree.
We saw a Sonic Wave. It didn't do any damage to heroes, but it's there. But now here comes the gank train right onto Ned. They also lose the Anti-Mage solo on the bottom lane. Rubik steals a skill, but that's not going to help him. Avalanche is going to be there, and he very rapidly loses that skill. And, okay. Anti-Mage is gone now, but I did not know what happened to him. He just ran into Pepita, I guess, and then just got obliterated.
Yeah, not a
There's
clue.
no one else there.
I have to chalk that one up to him just getting disconnected or something along those lines. Must be mechanical issues of some sort.
This is on land, by the way, guys. So, yeah. You know that video of that guy who says something to the lines of, "It's only game? Why you have to be mad?" I hope that's not something that is relevant here. But if it is, I can understand, like, they have to feel frustrated about how this game is going.
Yeah, they're just not able to use those tools anymore, even though they had those in the draft. It's not working how they envisioned it in their head. When you go for a draft like this, you want to be getting early kills with Spirit Breaker. You want to be including the Queen of Pain in all of these fights and for fighting to protect the Anti-Mage. But that's not how it works out. And at least whenever I'm playing Captain's Mode and Captain's Draft, when a draft isn't working how you planned it, it is very frustrating, and we'll have to see how Artyk are able to react to this. They still very well could pull this game back together, but it's going to be so very difficult for them. Even though the Anti-Mage is behind the course, I think the biggest issue for them is the fact that their supports just aren't getting nearly as much as the enemy supports. This Rubik has Tranquil Boots Magic Stick, and that's it.
Yeah, K&K doesn't have a ton on the Winter Wyvern, but we all know that as this game progresses, Winter Wyvern just becomes that much more useful with just her base kit. The IO is back in a Soul Ring, actually, so wants additional mana, but is more importantly going to go for a Glimmer Cape, not completed just yet. Night Stalker is, of course, working with the Hand of Midas. He's had that one for a hell of a long time, and wasn't too far behind the Queen of Pain. In fact, given the pace of this game, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Night Stalker overtake the Quap. Is going to go for that Aghanim Scepter. So Artyk, they may try to just, play the very elusive cat and mouse game, try to sneak some farm with the Anti-Mage Battle Theory here and there. That doesn't fly with Night Stalker. He's just going to find you every single time.
Right now, one thing that Artyk do have going for them is their ward vision. If we take a look right now, they have 4 very good wards on the map, although a couple of those are going to expire very shortly. This is going to allow their anti-mage to feel a lot more comfortable as he's trying to sneak that farm and as he's trying to cut the creep wave. And if they can maintain that, maybe, just maybe, they'll be able to find their opening back to this game. The other thing I could see happening that would give Artyk some momentum is if they're able to steal the Roshan. The chances of this happening are slim to none. Don't get me wrong, it's a very low probability play. But if they could get vision inside the Roshan pit with the Plague Ward, and Queen of Pain blinks in Sonic Wave, steals the Roshan, last it steals the Aegis, Artyk could very well mount a defense if they're able to stop the high ground push from happening. And I think that's one of the few ways that they could, in theory, do it. Their heroes, although not bad at high ground defense, are no Magnuses, no Enigmas, no Earthshakers, no big wombo combo ultimates that are just going to completely turn a fight on its head, even if you are 10k behind. I think they need to go for more of these smaller scale plays.
And even if it does come down to a giant, large-scale team fight, you gotta remember that even though we haven't seen many Sonic Waves, in fact, I'm pretty sure there's been 0 Sonic Wave damage done to heroes in this game, the Queen of Pain still is working with a level 2 Sonic Wave with Aghanim, so it's going to be up very frequently. It's still a lot of pure damage. Combine that with the Venomancer ultimate, yes, it's only level 1, but it does do a hell of a lot of damage as well, and you're looking at a lot of magic damage that's potentially going to be difficult for Isurus to deal with. If Artyk are somehow able to extend the duration of that fight and actually make use of that Poison Nova, they can conceivably win a team fight. It'll, of course, help if Venomancer was level 11, but again, these are just like all very, very unlikely options, it seems, since Isurus, every single time they are going to find a fight, it's just them collapsing, and then Artyk, you know, collapsing even harder than Isurus have onto Artyk, so really, they don't really have that much time for a significant response, no significant time to get themselves in position. And it's going to be a lot harder now to use those ultimates to get those kills, since someone here is going to have a double life.
Probably Pepita, although Tiny is going to be doing most of the tower damage. I think they'll err on the Templar Assassin just to let the TA dive into the base and kill up the supports, just like that. Although, if Templar Assassin was a different mid-hero and maybe they want to play things slow and steady, Isurus doesn't feel like they're in a situation where that's going to be the best course of action, although I don't think it's bad. Like, both the Tiny and the Templar Assassin are reasonable Aegis carriers, and to a lesser extent, even the Night Stalker. But we'll just go for this tier 2 tower push. They're going to take this tier 2 tower in just a couple more seconds. Tiny will get the destruction, and with it, you're getting some pretty major items up on your auxiliary heroes, almost an Ags on your Night Stalker.
And also, like, argument for TA with the Aegis
Queen
with
of
it. Oh, yeah, Soothes. Blink away. Pita is going to give chase. Here comes the haste and the beatdown. Soothes is just going to get 3-shot. Well, I mean, no item would have helped her there, really. Up against the hasted Templar Assassin, it's just not going to happen. Now 20-4 in favor of Isurus. Algodonchin still hanging around mid lane. Rufy's going to jump back mid as well. It's a lot easier to defend the Tiny with their defensive tools. The Tether from the Io just wants to be on the Tiny naturally, and Embrace does more to heal Algodonchin than it does the Templar Assassin, but that's Queen of Pain down for 30 seconds. This is a pretty big opening for Isurus to go in for a play, or they could just set up shop right outside of the Artyk base and use their blinks and sheer burst damage to pick off whoever's stupid enough to leave their base.
The good news for them is that the Plague Wards are delaying the push a little bit, and they do get a toss steal on the Rubik. This very well could be a very clutch spell inside the next upcoming fight, but it's gonna have to come out like now, because this tier 3 tower isn't going to be standing for much longer. Desolator effect still applied. Tiny is crushing this tower.
It's taking no damage in the process. They need to launch a defense right now, because if they concede these Raxes, it's just all over. Sonic Wave finally gonna do some damage, but it's way too late. This is a daytime push, by the way. Like, Night Stalker is not his full strength. He's going to TP back, not interrupted by ACC, who's looking for a target, can't quite find anyone. The Anti-Mage is going to split push, maybe, I guess. You can make the argument that he's going to buy them this time, but Rufy's actually going to yank himself up to the top lane. Glimmer out is not going to get dusted. That was just out of range. Now really gets stolen by the Rubik. So he can leave. Not really a super useful skill on Rubik, unfortunately, because he doesn't have Tether. But, yeah, for Artyk, they just did nothing. They just lost their Raxes. Isurus walk in, walk out, and they can do that same thing to any other lane.
And next time, they're going to probably have a Daedalus on the Templar Assassin, and they didn't lose the Aegis either. Pepita is just waiting here. If anybody walks into vision of this TA, they die. And maybe even this Queen of Pain is no exception. She has a small crit if the numbers are rolled right for Pepita. If Queen of Pain blinks in a creep wave,
oh, Rubik.
And Templar Assassin, oh no, Rubik, he walks right into her.
3 HP. Almost a one-shot. Pepita's a little bit luckier in the high-low roll, 120 to 126, maybe that is enough to get the kill. But now with the Daedalus, there's seriously one-shot range here on the Rubik, on the Venomancer, and like 2 or 3 shots on everyone else. Like, this is a disgusting amount of damage coming out from the Templar Assassin, and she has the second most net worth on Isurus.
Yeah, this is really hard. The Anti-Mage has gotten a little bit of space. He hasn't died that much for quite a while, but all this is really bottom is a Yasha. This isn't going to threaten the base nearly as much as Isurus' sieging potential. Even the Templar Assassin by herself can probably outdamage the Anti-Mage. In fact, I'm sure that she can outdamage the Anti-Mage on towers, but then you throw in Assault Cuirass Tiny on top of that, who's going to have a Manta of his own. Flying out to him in just a bit, Manta style on Tiny is terrifying, and now it looks like they're hunting for a relocate gank.
Yeah, this is going to allow Tiny to, quote-unquote, slow siege. Of course, with a Tiny, it's never a slow push for him, simply because he does so much damage. You could even, like, overcharge an illusion and just have those illusions go to town. The flexibility of Isurus' pushing right now is just disgusting. Even with no Aegis, like, Pepita should be losing that one very soon. It doesn't really matter simply because they do so much damage, and even if they lose a Templar Assassin, Isurus are unlikely to lose everyone else in addition to that TA. So, like, worst case scenario, they lose 1, maybe 2 heroes. They actually do to the Anti-Mage. Anti-Mage, you don't want to be here because here comes a Tiny. He actually doesn't have his Point Dagger. Okay, so it's a slow chase. The chase is on. Run, Anti-Mage, run. He's going to blink up to the north. And Algonchin's going to give chase. Avalanche toss. Oh, jukes. Here comes the IO, and the Night Stalker's here as well, so they see him. Avatoss beat down. He's going to jump to the right side, but still, there's a Night Stalker here. Short jump forward for this Tiny. One more swap of that tree, and that's going to be a dead Anti-Mage. Surprise, Artyk. There's an Aghanim Scepter on Night Stalker.
Absolutely terrifying to play against that. You can't hide anywhere, even if you are elusive as an Anti-Mage. That vision is absurd, and now they catch up. Poor ACC. This Rubik is not long for this world. Silenced up. He has a TP, but there's no way to get it off. They're just going to give him the beatdown. Night Stalker secures a support kill, and now up towards top. Tiny's just going to casually take out this ranged barracks and like 5 hits or something.
Here's their chance to pick off the Tiny. Oh wait, no, there's Reaper behind him. Actually doesn't have a relocate, has a glimmer, but Tiny has a man style and can conceivably just turn around and kick all of these heroes' collective asses. Avatoss is available. He's going to miss the Avalanche. Now he's going to get a little bit of help from the IO. But that was 3 heroes going on to Tiny, did, about half of his HP pool. Night Stalker also arrived in time to help if needed. And Artyk, again, they lose another structure. They are mounting no significant offense. They're really struggling to mount a defensive play. And Pepita is now going to go for, honestly, anything. Like, it's an ultimate orb item, but any ultimate orb item would be good here.
Scotty won't stack with the Desolator, but who cares? It's stats, worst case scenario, and even if he drops the ultimate orb on the floor and kills it, he can still fight a lot more effectively than Artyk, so it really doesn't matter. Probably Scythe, maybe Lincoln's, I don't know. But Scythe would be absolutely detrimental, and you'd see things like this. They get the Avalanche toss after the curse onto the Queen of Pain. Easy kill there, down for 60.
Oh, the relocate forward. Ned has his Ghost Scepter on. Io's almost going to kill the Venomancer because of it. Whereas the Tiny just going to go for the structures, changes his mind, kills off the Anti-Mage, just 2 hits. Now Ned, they're going to let him leave? Oh, let him leave. Oh, they kill him off with the Void. So mean from Isurus. Artyk haven't done anything in this game. I feel like they just kind of let this happen.
That's really sad to say. There was the potential for aggressive plays, but it did feel like they were completely reactionary. It was always Isurus to be the proactive team to make the moves around the map, and although they tried a couple of early smoke ganks, they were way too hesitant to pull the trigger, I'd say. Artyk, they'd go for these charges, and then they just straight up cancel them. They were very hesitant to try anything, and although that isn't going to lose them the game maybe as fast as they could have lost, it's also not going to win it for them. Unfortunately enough, this is going to be the last game because they're out of time at the venue, so we're going to end with Isurus winning 1-0 over Artyk.
Yeah, so if you guys were waiting for that last game, what was it going to be? T-Show versus Ints? That's going to be played tomorrow as, I believe, the first game, so hopefully that's actually going to be there. Hey, we can actually do this with our fancy new score screen. There we go. So yeah, you guys are just gonna have to wait for it. Unfortunately, land delays, you guys know how it is. But for Isurus, they're gonna be moving onwards. Tomorrow, they said that they're gonna have, in theory, like 5 to 6 games. I don't know, they're really gonna have to step up the pace of the games right now if they want to get through all of that. But tomorrow, hopefully Pain gonna go up against Keystars. Isurus going to know who they're going to be going up against, and everyone else drop down to the lower bracket, and we may have some eliminations tomorrow as well. Guys, we are done for the day. It's been a hell of a long day with only like 3 games. But
Yeah, this is probably the longest 3 games I've ever cast. Period.
hey, at least there was like no internet issues, no DDoS. This isn't the EU region, right? It could have been, I guess, a lot worse. But still, it's going to be the end of it. If you guys enjoyed it, be sure to tune in tomorrow. Actually, let's get rid of this so we can see. Well, that's way too big. Whatever, it's good enough. Be sure to tune in tomorrow because there is going to be the continuation of this tournament. This is just the first day. Follow us on Twitter at HeflaTV. Oh, that's also not your name. Ha! Oh, we're just messing all of this up right now. But yeah, follow us on Twitter at Mikelorus for myself, at GrandisV for my co-caster. And that should just about be it. Any final words?
Good night, Carlitos.
I'll play it, guys. Don't worry. It will be played. It will be finished. See you later, guys.